You know, there's something magical about farming life. The sunrise over rolling fields, the gentle sounds of animals starting their day, the satisfaction of honest work with your hands. For 37 years, my family farm had been our sanctuary, a place where time moved at nature's pace. Not the frantic rush of modern life, but sometimes peace can be shattered in an instant. It was a crisp October night when everything changed. The grandfather clock in our kitchen had just chimed midnight when the pounding started. Not a gentle knock, aggressive, demanding thuds that sent our farm dogs into a frenzy. I grabbed my robe and hurried to the front door, my heart racing. Living this far out, a midnight visit usually meant trouble, maybe a neighbor's medical emergency or a barn fire somewhere down the road. I flicked on the porch light and opened the door, expecting to help someone in crisis. Instead, I found myself face to face with a woman I'd only seen from a distance, the newest resident of Willowbrook Estates, the upscale development that had sprung up across the county road just 6 months earlier. "Are you the owner of this operation?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Behind her stood 2 police officers, shifting uncomfortably in the chilly night air. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Martinez," one of them said apologetically. "We received a noise complaint about roosters." I blinked in confusion. "Roosters? At midnight?" "Sir, roosters crow at dawn. Not, don't you dare lecture me about roosters," the woman interrupted, stepping closer. "I know what I heard. Loud, obnoxious crowing that woke up half the neighborhood. This is a residential area now, and we have rights." That's when it hit me. This woman, I later learned her name was Karen, actually believed that her suburban homeowners association somehow had authority over my century-old family farm. The officers, bless their hearts, were thorough and professional. They walked my property with flashlights, checking the chicken coops, the barn, even the old tractor that hadn't run in a week. Of course, they found nothing amiss, just sleepy chickens and confused livestock wondering why humans were wandering around with bright lights at midnight, sir. "Everything looks normal here," Officer Martinez told me quietly. "Your animals are properly housed and quiet. We're sorry for the disturbance," but as the police cars pulled away, Karen planted herself on the roadside and unleashed a tirade that still gives me chills. "This isn't over," she screamed, her voice echoing across the peaceful countryside. "You can't just run some backwards farm operation next to a proper community. We have property values to protect. We have standards." Standing there in my robe, watching this woman's rage under the starlit sky, I realized my peaceful farming life had just become a battlefield. You know what they say about killing them with kindness? Well, I decided to give it a try. The next morning, I gathered a basket of our best fresh brown eggs, still warm from the hen house, a jar of golden honey from our beehives, and some of my late wife's famous apple butter that had won ribbons at the county fair. I walked across the road to Karen's pristine driveway. Hoping to start over, the woman who answered the door looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine perfectly. Styled blonde hair, designer athleisure wear, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Tom," I said, offering the basket. "I thought we got off on the wrong foot last night. These are from our farm." Her expression transformed instantly. The fake smile vanished, replaced by something almost predatory. "You think I'm going to eat food from your dirty barnyard?" She actually recoiled, as if I was offering her poison. "Keep your farm filth to yourself." Then she leaned closer, and her next word sent ice through my veins. "Let me make something crystal clear, old man. This area is changing. Progress is coming whether you like it or not. Your little hobby farm is a relic, and relics get removed." 2 days later, the police were back. "Tom, I'm real sorry about this," Officer Martinez said, looking genuinely embarrassed. "She's claiming you're illegally storing agricultural chemicals." We walked to my barn together. I showed him my modest collection of supplies, basic fertilizers, animal medications, the same products I'd used responsibly for decades. Everything properly labeled, safely stored. "Well, within legal limits, this is harassment," I said quietly as we walked back to his patrol car. "I know," he replied. glancing toward Karen's house where she stood watching from her window. But we have to respond to every call. Document everything, Tom. Trust me on that. So I started keeping a log. Date, time, responding officer, reason for the call. What began as a way to track the madness soon became something much more important. Evidence call. Suspected animal abuse, she claimed. The animal control officer who responded actually laughed when he saw my well-fed. Healthy livestock grazing in clean pastures? Mr. Thompson, your animals are in better shape than most pets I see, he told me. Someone's wasting our time here, but Karen was just getting started. She began what I can only describe as a campaign of psychological warfare. Every morning when I'd step outside to do my chores, there she'd be standing at the edge of her manicured lawn, arms crossed. Watching me like a hawk watches a mouse, she started parking her luxury SUV on the county road right in front of my gate, blocking farm vehicles and visitors. When I'd try to work in my fields, she'd honk her horn repeatedly, claiming I was creating dust clouds that violated air quality standards. The worst incident happened on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I was repairing fence posts near the road when I heard shouting behind me. I turned to see Karen marching across my pasture, her phone out like she was filming. "I'm conducting a citizen's inspection," she yelled. "The community has a right to know what kind of operation you're running here." That's when my livestock guardian dog Rexa, gentle giant, who'd never heard a fly, decided he'd had enough. He positioned himself between Karen and my cattle, letting out a low, warning growl that said everything that needed saying. Karen scrambled back to the road faster than I'd seen anyone move in years. Shrieking about vicious attack dogs the whole way, that evening brought police call number 6. By the time Sheriff Coleman himself pulled into my driveway, I'd filled an entire notebook with Karen's harassment incidents. 12 police calls in 6 weeks, each one more ridiculous than the last. "Tom," the sheriff said, settling into a chair on my front porch, "I've been doing this job for 23 years, and I've never seen anything quite like this. That woman has filed more false reports than some people make legitimate calls in a lifetime." He flipped through my log, shaking his head at each entry. "Unlicensed livestock when your animals are better documented than most humans. Illegal farming activities on land that's been zoned agricultural since before she was born. Noise violations at times when your equipment wasn't even running." "Sheriff, I'm at my wit's end here," I admitted. "I've never hurt anyone, never broken a law, never even raised my voice at her. But she's determined to drive me off land. My family has worked for 4 generations. "Well, Tom, here's the thing," Sheriff Coleman said, standing up and adjusting his hat. "Filing false police reports is a crime. Harassment is a crime. And we've got enough evidence to prove both." That afternoon, I drove to the county attorney's office with my documentation. The receptionist recognized Karen's name immediately. "Oh, the HOA lady," she said with a knowing look. "She's been ... busy. The attorney will definitely want to see this." County attorney. Sarah Morrison was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who listened to my story with growing amazement. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and whistled softly. "Mr. Thompson? In 15 years of prosecution, I've rarely seen such clear-cut harassment. The fact that she's targeting a working farm, something vital to our community, makes it even worse." 3 days later, I watched from my kitchen window as 2 patrol cars pulled into Karen's circular driveway. The woman who had terrorized me for months was led away in handcuffs. Her designer workout clothes a stark contrast to the steel restraints. But the real vindication came in the courthouse. The day of Karen's hearing, the gallery was packed. Fellow farmers, neighbors who'd grown tired of her complaints. Even some of the police officers she'd repeatedly summoned, came to witness justice being served. Karen strutted in wearing a bright red blazer, sunglasses perched on her head despite being indoors. Acting like she was the star of her own reality show. She actually waved to the crowd as if they were her fans. County Attorney Morrison presented our case methodically. The endless police reports. My detailed log. Security camera footage I'd installed showing Karen prowling around my property at night with a flashlight, looking for anything she could use against me. "Your Honor," Morrison said, The defendant made a conscious decision to weaponize our legal system against an innocent farmer. She wasted countless hours of police resources, caused immeasurable stress to the victim, and violated the basic principle that false accusations have consequences. Karen's defense was as weak as expected. She claimed she was protecting property values and had a civic duty to report suspicious activities. Her lawyer looked embarrassed, presenting such flimsy arguments. The breakthrough moment came when Officer Martinez took the stand, Your Honor. In 12 years as a police officer, I've never encountered such blatant misuse of emergency services. Every single call to Mr. Thompson's farm was without merit. The defendant knew she was lying, and she did it repeatedly, deliberately, and maliciously. Judge Harrison didn't mince words in his ruling. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, looking directly at Karen, "you've abused our justice system, harassed a lawful citizen, and wasted precious public resources. This wasn't community vigilance. This was persecution, plain and simple. 6 months in county jail, a $5,000 fine, and a permanent restraining order keeping her away from my property." For the first time in months, Karen had nothing to say. The morning after Karen was sentenced, I woke to something I hadn't experienced in months' silence. Not the oppressive silence of fear, but the peaceful quiet of a farm at dawn, broken only by the gentle sounds of nature waking up. My rooster Chester crowed right on schedule as the sun painted the eastern sky pink and gold. I smiled, remembering how that beautiful sound, one of the oldest agricultural traditions in human history, had been Karen's first target. She'd tried to silence something that had greeted farmers' dawns for thousands of years. The phone rang as I was making coffee. It was Sheriff Coleman. "Tom, I wanted you to know Karen's HOA voted her out last night. Seems they were tired of the legal bills and embarrassment she'd brought them. Word is, she's moving out of state, rather than serve her sentence here." Over the following weeks, something beautiful happened. Neighbors I hadn't seen in years stopped by to check on me. The Johnsons brought homemade pie. The Martinez family asked if they could buy fresh eggs. People who'd kept their distance during Karen's campaign, afraid of becoming her next target, now felt safe to reconnect. "Tom, always knew she was in the wrong," my neighbor Bill told me. "But she was so vicious, so relentless, most folks were scared to get involved. You standing up to her gave the rest of us courage. That hit me harder than I expected." I realized I hadn't just been fighting for my farm, I'd been fighting for everyone's right to live peacefully without fear of malicious harassment. The local newspaper ran a story about the case, and letters poured in from across the county. Fellow farmers, small business owners, retirees, all sharing their own stories of dealing with entitled individuals who believed their desires trumped everyone else's rights. One letter particularly moved me. It was from a young veteran named Mike who'd bought a small farm 2 counties over. "Mr. Thompson, I read about your situation and wanted to thank you. I'm dealing with something similar, new development. Unreasonable neighbors, constant complaints. Your story showed me that standing up to bullies isn't just possible, it's necessary. I'm documenting everything now, just like you did. 6 months after Karen's departure, my farm was thriving like never before. Without the constant stress and interruptions, I expanded my vegetable garden and started selling produce at the farmer's market. The Fresh from Thompson Farm sign became a popular stop for families wanting to show their children where real food comes from. I even started offering farm tours for school groups, watching city kids discover where milk comes from. Seeing their faces light up when they collect eggs or pet a gentle calf that became one of my greatest joys. One morning, a young couple stopped by looking for fresh vegetables. As they loaded their car with tomatoes and sweet corn, the woman said, "My grandmother lived on a farm like this when I was little. Places like yours are treasures. They connect us to something real, something that matters." That evening, sitting on my porch with a glass of iced tea, I reflected on everything that had happened. Karen had tried to destroy my peace, my livelihood, my family's legacy. She'd used fear, intimidation, and the legal system as weapons against an innocent person. But in the end, truth prevailed. Justice was served. And the community, the real community, not some artificial HOA bubble, stood together. The rooster crowed in the distance, and I raised my glass to him in a silent toast. That sound, which had started this whole ordeal, now represented something greater, the victory of authenticity over artifice, of community over selfishness, of standing your ground when you know you're right. If you're facing your own Karen, remember this: document everything. Stand firm in the truth. Never let a bully convince you that you don't belong in the place you call home. Because sometimes, the most important battles aren't fought in wars or courtrooms. They're fought in our backyards. For the right to live peacefully and pursue our dreams without fear, and that's a fight worth winning.